Hi Shirley, thank you for joining me on the podcast. How are you doing?
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Well, I know you're very busy with the tour coming up, so
Hmm.
I really do appreciate the time you're giving me today.
Oh, no, thanks. It's always nice to chat.
Yeah, brilliant. So, just to start,
Yeah.
um, you're well known for your work with George Michael, but you have had a successful music career outside of that. You've played at Live Aid with Spandau Ballet,
Uh,
with Elton John for 3 years. You've performed at the Brits. What are some of your personal highlights?
wow. You just make me sound really old now. Listen, I've had an incredible career. I'm very grateful for it and grateful to, still be working now. But I mean, so many things. I've done so many things. I mean, you mentioned Live Aid. Of course, that was just an incredible historic day to be part of. So, of course, that's will go down as one of my, ticks. A star that gets a star. Um, but yeah, I've done so many shows. It's actually hard to kind of think of one. I've played like Wembley Stadium like so many times. People say to me, "What was it like to do Live Aid and be like at Wembley Stadium?" And I feel like I've played it a lot of times before, so it wasn't that kind of intimidating. I was just really lucky to have worked with some incredible artists previously. As you said, I was out with Elton John for about 2 years. Actually, that tour was. Um, and then I did Spandau Ballet and George Michael again. So I was kind of used to playing huge arenas and stadiums and stuff. So that kind of looking out and going, oh my God, I'm at Wembley Stadium wasn't such a shock to me, I guess. Yeah.
What was the day like though, Live Aid?
Live Aid was, I mean, just crazy because everywhere you look, like you could go there, oh, there's, Midge Ure, there's Elton John, there's Freddie Mercury, there was just stars everywhere, but everyone was so cool and just working together. And, it was for a charity. And so it was just really bonding. Everyone was lovely. Everyone was really nice and supportive, and everyone was helping each other. If someone didn't have background vocals and they needed background vocals, you could go and jump on there. And it was great. It was a great day. It really was.
How did your career in music start then? Is it like you'd get recommended to artists after you've worked with another artist kind of thing?
Mm. Well, I really started very young. I was only 13 when I did my first Top of the Pops appearance with my sister. My sister, Linda Lewis, you should check her out. Her music is amazing. Unfortunately, she passed away a couple of years ago. But her legacy of music is incredible. And she was actually the first black female singer-songwriter to ever enter the UK chart.
Really?
So yeah, in 1973, she had a hit with a song called Rock-a-Doodle Doo, and then she had other hits after that. But she used to take me around with her all the time when I was really young. So people just used to say, "Oh, we need someone to sing on a track. Can we get Linda's little sister?" And then Linda would say, "Oh yeah, here's her number." So I would go in, and because her name's Linda Lewis, my name was Fredericks, is my family name. But because I went in and everyone was just saying it's Linda's little sister, everyone just called me Lewis. So that's how the Shirley Lewis name came about. I never actually picked it. I
How
just
come,
ended up, yeah, and I'd look on a track and it would say background vocal Shirley Lewis. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess that's my name now.
how come she went with Lewis instead of Frederick?
Because when she was signed by, do you know who Don Arden is?
Not by the name, no.
Okay. Well, he's Sharon Osbourne's dad,
All right, yeah, yeah.
but he was a big music mogul back in the 60s. And he took Linda under his wing, and her name was Linda Fredericks. And he said, "You can't use that name, that you're never going to be famous with that name." And she was like, "Oh no, what name can I use?" And then she got home, and her and my sister were listening to an artist called Barbara Lewis. And she said, "I'm taking that name. That fits. Linda Lewis. That's right." So she just picked it out of the blue. And now that's my name too.
Well, we mentioned before you're very busy at the moment with the tour coming up. Are you looking forward to the tour?
Yeah, I really am. It's been a lot of Oh, a lot of work though, because we're kind of managing ourselves. So all the technical stuff, which you don't ever have to do when you're doing background vocals, you just go in, you get in a limousine, and you drive to the show, and someone puts a mic in front of you and you sing. This is completely different. So we're doing everything, technical crew, talking about venues and stuff like that. So it's a lot of work, but the fun starts March 27th when we do our first show. Everything should be in place and we can just sing. So I'm looking forward to that.
Well, the tour is called George Michael's Singers.
Yeah.
When did you first meet George?
I met George. In fact, I was working with Elton John at the time when I met George, and they were kind of close at the time. So George was kind of around, he'd come to shows or at rehearsals, and then he recorded a track with Elton called "Wrap Her Up."
Yeah.
I can't remember what year that was, and they made a video together, and I was in the video as well. And me and George got chatting, and I think we just connected, and I didn't even know he'd noticed that I was the singer, because it was obviously we were doing a video, so I could have been miming or whatever. He didn't know what I sounded like, but clearly he'd been doing his homework, and he asked me to come and do the Wham final. Yeah, the Wham final.
That was at Wembley, wasn't it?
That was the Wham, and that was the first time that I worked with George, was on the Wham final. And that was actually really an incredible day. It's funny now because that was so. Do you know what? It's going to be 40 years next year.
Really?
That's a. Yeah. I was only 8 when I did that show. So yeah, it was weird because nowadays when you go to like a massive show like that, it's such a big production. Like if you see a Beyonce or something, that it's all production. But when we did the final, all we had was this curtain that had the final on it. And that was the anticipation of that curtain dropping was like, a huge production now. But it was amazing because the curtain dropped and it was like, whoa, it was a really hot day, I remember. But it was like just screams of people. Like you can almost feel like the heat of their breath. It was so loud. So that was the first show that I did with George. And then after that, he asked me to record with him he was doing a solo album, which was Faith. And he asked me to come and sing on Faith. So, and then obviously I've worked with him throughout his career from that point, which I'm very grateful for.
So the day of the final Wham gig, you didn't know you was going to be working with him after that then?
No, I just thought, I didn't know what he was doing. I didn't realize he was. I mean, I know he was doing a solo thing, but I didn't think for a minute, he was going to ask me to do it. I mean, literally, I was the only singer that he used on that album and on Listen Without Prejudice. Actually, both albums. What
was it like recording Faith?
Oh, it was amazing. I actually was there when he wrote it.
Really?
As well. Yeah, he called me one day, and said, "Oh, he's working on a song. Could I come in?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll come." And when I got there, he was writing Faith. So actually, he'd only written the sort of like what is the bridge section, I guess, where it goes, "Greet me with the eyes of a child." That bit, he'd just written that. So that was the first thing we recorded. I didn't really realize. I didn't really hear it as an entirety until it came out, because we did different bits, so I didn't know what was going where. But it was great. He's so easy to work with, really, and our voices just really gel. We kind of got similar kind of timbre, I guess. So, and quite breathy, and that's kind of what he likes. And then I did the more kind of gospely sound on it, and then he would do the softer side, but it was great working with him. I love singing with him. He's just got such a great, it's lovely hearing like George Michael's voice right in your ear. You can't get any better than that.
Would that happen often then, that he'd be writing a song in the studio?
Always.
Oh, really?
Always. Yeah, nothing was ever you'd never, like most people, like someone calls you for a session, they know they're doing a session in say 2 weeks and they'll book you for the session. George never did that. He would literally just call you on the day Go, I need some vocals here, come in. And you'd be like, okay, I'm on my way. You just had to drop everything and go. But yeah, he was always, writing, and he'd have an idea and he'd just want to get it down there and then. So it was never really prepared. I think he was just however he felt on the day, he'd write something and he'd go in and record it.
It must have been crazy, like seeing the creative process in front of you.
Oh no, I mean now as well. It's like when you listen to all those songs like Father Figure and Freedom, they're like they're anthems, they're iconic songs, and well, one to be on them, but one to have been there whilst he was doing it. It's amazing.
What's your favourite song off of that album?
Off of Faith,
Yeah, yeah.
Father Figure for
Is
sure.
it? Yeah.
Yeah. But that's not my favourite George Michael song.
What's your favourite?
My favourite George Michael song, you're going to have to go on YouTube and find it, because I don't think he ever recorded it. It was something that he wrote whilst we were on the Symphonica tour. And I think he may have only performed it twice, but there's definitely a video online of him doing it. But it's a song called Where I Hope You Are.
All right, yeah.
It's a great song, and I just don't think he ever got time to record it. But
I'll give it a listen.
It's a beautiful song. It's really, really lovely. So that's my favourite George Michael song.
With the Faith album, you mentioned obviously Wham's last gig. He kind of him going solo played a part in Wham splitting. Really, wanting to go down his own route. Did you feel any pressure with that solo album?
Did he?
Yeah, did you see?
Oh, massively, yeah. Because he was from essentially like what is known now as a boy band. And I don't know if people took him seriously as a singer, songwriter, producer at that time. I don't think so. Although he did do Different Corner, didn't he, whilst he was still with Wham. That still came under Wham.
Yeah.
But that was George kind of breaking out of that kind of pop shell. And I just think he wanted to explore. He wanted to explore his voice, and I think he wanted to explore the songwriting in a more adult way. I think so. Yeah, I think he was definitely ready for that. But I don't think he knew that he was going to be as successful as he was.
Yeah, maybe his solo career is more successful than Wham, really, when you look back.
100%. When you think this is the interesting thing when people, I see, obviously there are a ton of Wham fans out there, but when you think about it, that was like a 4-year period of his life. And then you've got a 25-year period of George Michael. And that George Michael music, I think, is where the magic is. For me, I just, not just because he was the artist I was working with, but I just feel like people do pay a lot of attention to Wham, but it was such a small part of his life when he was a boy. He was 19 or something. It's only a 4-year span. He's got like 25 years of George Michael, and I think that's definitely where the magic is for me, and for obviously the band and my band now.
What was like the Wham's fans' reaction at the time? Did you see him coming to the solo shows and stuff straight away, or did it take them time to get used to his solo stuff?
No, I think I actually didn't go on the Faith tour. That was the only tour that I didn't do. But that was hugely successful. So people were obviously the Wham fans were very open to following George. But I don't think like I said, I don't think he realised how big it was going to be. I don't think anybody did. Everybody knew he was a great singer in Wham, but I don't think it wasn't until Faith I think people started to realise just exactly how good he was, and as a songwriter and a producer, because the songwriting was on a different level to what he did with Wham.
It takes a lot of guts as well to go, like, with Wham being successful, then going solo. It does take a lot of guts to do that.
But I think he did it at the right time. I think he was feeling that it was the constraints of that image as well of the boy band thing. He definitely wanted to just break out there, and it was time. He was 20, and it was time for him to get off on his own, and he definitely did the right thing. Clearly.
It won a Grammy, that album. Can you remember winning the Grammy?
Yeah, he won a Grammy. Yeah, so he should. I think it was an R&B. I think he got something for R&B, didn't he?
Oh, I'm not
I
sure.
think the album came under like R&B, which is amazing for,
Yeah.
a white guy to be then as well. How long ever long ago that was.
You mentioned you're on his second album, Listen Without Prejudice. What was that one like? Recording that one?
Yeah, great. I mean, that's the one with Freedom on. And Listen Without Prejudice is a great album. Some great songs on there. Um, and I actually, the title is brilliant as well. I just think it says it all really. It's just listen to the music without any kind of judgment, and it was a great message to send. But I think that was again, that was him. He really was trying to then shed the faith image. Again, he'd created something. This is what he kept saying, is he kept creating things unknowingly what they were going to end up being, because that faith image, if I've only got to say it to you, you know what that is. That's George standing with his legs spread, doing that dot. But again, he'd gone, oh no, I've created another image that he didn't want. So Listen Without Prejudice was him trying to break out that, which is why he did the video, the Freedom video, where he was blowing up the machine and burning the jacket and all of that stuff. It was like, stop putting me in a box and stop giving me a label. He wanted to be free of that and just write beautiful songs. So that was what that album was about.
Well, around the time of the first album, you had a solo career. How was that?
I did. Oh my God. And that's the reason I didn't go on the Faith tour, because I just signed to A&M Records. I'm not even sure if they're even around anymore. I just signed to them, and then I'd already recorded Faith with George. And then I signed a record deal, and they wanted me to go to the States to record with some American producers. And when George called up and said, I'm going on tour, you're coming on the tour, he expected me to go on the tour, obviously. And I said, I really can't. They won't let me go. And he was like, what? Like, what? I've got to find another singer. And I was like, oh no, this is like, I've blown it. I'm never going to see George again. That was the end of it. And I thought, okay, I've really, that was one of the worst decisions. I don't regret a lot, but I do regret not going on that with him. But as it turned out, when he came back from the tour, he called me again to do Listen Without Prejudice. So I'm grateful that he still wanted to work with me after that. But I didn't really enjoy the solo thing, to be honest. I don't even know how it came about. It was just all of a sudden it was there, and before you know it, I was recording songs and making videos and traveling around on my own, and I just didn't enjoy it. It
Really?
just wasn't. It wasn't for me, really. I think um, I mean, at heart, I guess I am a backing vocalist, which is. I was just talking to someone else, actually, another interview that I was doing, and it's definitely a different skill set to be a background vocalist. You're kind of always the person that does exactly what it says on the tin. You're there to support the artist, and if they're not feeling great or they want help with different certain lines in songs, that's what you're there for. And it's really interesting that working with Joe Garland and Jay Henry, which are the George Michael singers, we still kind of, no one wants to be the have the limelight. I guess we're all kind of still kind of, I want to be next to my mate, because we're used to singing and having someone next to us. So we're very supportive of whoever's doing that lead line on whatever song. We're there to help them. But yeah, it's definitely it's a skill. It's a definite skill set being a background singer. But I like it. I like being the support for the artist. Definitely.
I guess it's like football, really. Like you're assisting, like the striker. Like they
Exactly.
take all the limelight, but you're pushing it forward.
Exactly. But without them, the striker can't do his job, right?
Yeah,
Because
exactly. Yeah,
yeah, I like that football analogy. Come on.
yeah. On the deluxe version of the second album, is the MTV Unplugged performance. Did you enjoy doing that?
Oh, that was amazing. that was one of that is now there's a highlight of
Yeah.
because we'd never done anything like that with George. We were always out on tour. Mostly it was just me doing the vocals, so I was always kind of on my own until we did the cover to cover tour, and that's when Jay Henry came in. So then there were two of us. But that experience, there were 8 singers, so we'd never done anything like that before, and it was so lovely because we were all sitting around in like a semicircle with George in the centre, and just to hear all of that kind of all of the songs unplugged, so they were very kind of acoustic, was amazing because normally it's a massive big production. So then it became George Michael's sound became about the vocals. And I think that's when really like the George Michael sound was created. And I think that when people come to our show, they say to us, "Oh, I feel like you've got, a tape of George going or something because it sounds like him." But it will sound like him because you're used to hearing our voices behind him. So it's familiar. That's what it is.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, he had a lot of difficult moments in his life and
Mm,
controversies in the press and stuff.
he
What was
did.
it like behind closed doors when the public weren't there and the press and stuff?
Oh, he hated all that, the press thing. I mean, it was just the worst thing. I mean, I think he was so happy when he got caught in the loo in LA, and he was like, "Well, thank God for that. I don't have to think about being gay anymore." It's like it was just. I don't know why he felt like he couldn't say it really, because I don't think anybody cared. It was like, you're still going to fancy George Michael. If you fancied him before he was gay, you're still going to fancy him because he's a good looking guy. So it didn't change anything. And probably just at the time, I think, he had a certain image, and I guess he was thinking, oh, I don't know, like if his family knew, or like, he was thinking about so many other elements where really he should have just been thinking, oh, I just need to say to everyone I'm gay and be done with it. But he was so happy, which is why we recorded outside, which was just a brilliant way of saying, I don't give a rat's bum what you think.
It, another what I like about George Michael as well is he was very generous and stuff, and he didn't like
So
admit
generous.
to it openly. Like he didn't go in the press saying he does all this brilliant charity work and stuff, which I think is
Oh,
great.
he was so generous. He was, to everyone, to his friends, to people he didn't know, but nothing he ever did was like loudspeaker. He was
Yeah,
Everything was under the radar. He didn't ever want. He was just really humble. That's what he was. He was a really humble, down to earth, really well brought up guy, and he just knew how to behave, and he was just a lovely soul. It's just such a shame he's not here because he had, I think, he had a lot of sadness in his life because, well, listen, people die. That is life. But I think he had a really hard time when his partner died, and he had a hard time when his mother died, and they were quite close together. So that's a lot of grief. And I think it took him a long time to come out of that. I think the older album was quite healing for him because a lot of that was came from grief, with his mom and his partner. And I think he really was like not rushing, but really wanted to get the older album finished because his mum he always used to, when he had an album, he used to sit in the car and play it to his mum
really.
first. Yeah. So then she was diagnosed with cancer, and whilst he was recording, and I think he just was kind of wanted to get it finished so that he could do what he always did. So that album meant so much to George, and it was, I mean, again, a beautiful album, lots of incredible. Well, he was a great lyricist anyway, but I don't think people really listen to his lyrics as much as they should because his songs are so good and his melodies are so good. When you're happy and you listen to a song, you kind of listen to the music because you're like, oh, this is great. And not, but when you're sad, you tend to focus on lyrics, and I think that's what George Michael's lyrics really speak to everyone. and everyone has gone through that pain, and I think that's his connection with his fans for sure. The lyrics are, he's a genius lyricist.
Did you, like in the 80s when you worked with him and stuff, did you think his legacy would go on to what it has become?
Yeah, yeah. After a point, obviously, when we did the first album, I didn't know. I didn't know what I was dealing with, but it became apparent after that first album that George Michael was one of the legends that were going to, he's going to be like a Stevie Wonder, or, that's who I knew that's what he was going to be. Obviously, now he's passed away, it makes he's even more of a legend. I'd rather have him here than not, though.
When did you last see him?
I saw him in 2015 or the end of 2014. So I hadn't seen him for about 18 months before he died.
What was your out of contact? Did you speak to him
I didn't speak to him in that time. No, and it was just, do you know what? George didn't tour like most people. He had long gaps. Like we could be like do something, and then 5 years later you do. It wasn't like, so it wasn't unusual not to speak to him for a year even. It depended. It wasn't like, but I think I do regret that actually, because I do. Don't know why. After he wasn't very well on the last tour. He had pneumonia, and he was kind of in a coma for a long time. And then after he came out of that, we continued doing Symphonica, which was the last tour. So after that, he wasn't really. He wasn't that well, so we couldn't continue. We were going to go to Australia, so we couldn't really continue. He needed to rest. So I think what it was is we didn't really want to keep like bothering him while he was resting and all of that. So I think that played a little part in not speaking to him as much as you would normally. But I do regret that, because I think, wow, maybe I should have called more. But in a way, you don't want to, someone's recuperating and you don't want to call them up. And I don't know why I don't know why I didn't, but I do. It's a massive regret. Yeah.
It came out of nowhere, didn't it? It was Christmas Day, wasn't it? It happened.
Yeah. It was just out of nowhere, really, and it's just so unexpected. We had so many plans, and like I said, we finished. Actually, I think we finished Symphonica did that finish in 2012? Are you good with dates?
Oh no, I'm not that good.
I think it finished. I think we did the last show. I want to say 2012. Maybe it was later than that. Maybe it's 2014. Anyway, we finished it then, but we just assumed in 4 or something years, George is going to, I'm bored now, I want to go out again. And so that's just what we were expecting. And he always used to say to us, we're going to all be like playing in Vegas when we're like 70 and sitting around on stools singing these old tired songs, and that's where we're going to end our days. And we'd be like, yeah, okay, we're good with that, we're fine, when are we going to Vegas? So we had plans, and it's just so sad that it just all was taken away so quickly. And we were in disbelief really for a good couple of years. I still sometimes feel a bit weird. I've got a picture of him up here. I'm sure if you can see it there.
Oh yeah.
I hope it's just, but I look at it sometimes, I think, how are you not here? I don't understand. I don't get it. So I'm really grateful to be able to perform these incredible songs with my amazing friends, and can keep making memories, I guess, because that's, I think, what he would want us to do. I feel grateful to his fans, because obviously they're the ones that are supporting us now, and without them we couldn't do any of this. So I'm really, really grateful that they're allowing us to keep having these wonderful moments and keep talking about George and singing the songs and celebrating him and thanking him for everything that he did for us, really. So makes you feel sad a bit, but
Well, like you say, he's got a brilliant legacy and he'll always be remembered, but he's still keeping his name alive as well. With
Yeah, his name is alive whether we're doing it or not. But I feel like if anyone's going to do it, I think he would want us to do it because we were the people that created those songs with him. So we're, we're part of the magic that we were all making together.
yeah,
So I think it's right. I think that we do it, and we've have a great relationship with the George Michael estate. They've been absolutely amazing. And again, allowing us to perform the songs, and in fact, it was them that gave us the name of the George Michael Singers. They
oh
said,
really?
yeah, because we were going to call ourselves like Cowboys and Angels or a George Michael song title or something, and they said, "Why are you doing that? You are the George Michael Singers, so why don't you just be the George Michael Singers?" And we were like, "Oh, okay," but we didn't want to assume that we could use his name in that way.
Yeah, yeah.
So we didn't want to just. But then when we said to them we're going to do some shows and we're going to do a tour and the name of the band, and they went, "I think you should just be called the George Michael Singers," and we were like, "Okay, we'll take it." So that was a blessing for us.
That is brilliant. When you see what's happening with like Prince's estate and stuff, that's brilliant.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But it's. I'm trying to think of another artist that used the same singers throughout his entire career. I'm trying to think of another artist, and I really like thinking, oh, was it Prince? I know Prince used Sheila E., who was his percussion player,
Yeah, yeah.
but I don't know again if that was through his entire solo career.
No, not sure, but you
So if
must
any of
feel,
your audience know that answer to that question, put it in the comments.
yeah, exactly. You must feel privileged though that you did like you had that long career with him. Looking back at those memories.
Yeah, I mean, it's like 35 years, 35 years of working with one person. You can't help but know exactly what they want. This is the thing.
Yeah,
It's like this is the thing with our show. It's like there are tons of tribute artists out there doing George's music, and they do a great job. People have a great night at their shows. That's brilliant. But our show is more, I guess, the heart of our show are the stories that lead into the songs. The songs speak for themselves. We don't need to, we don't need to explain the songs. They are as what they are. But I think it's us telling our stories. And I'm talking to you now, giving you a little more insight into George. That's what you're getting at our shows that you cannot get anywhere else. And
yeah,
I
yeah.
know that, like I said, working with someone for 35 years, and he literally drilled us to perfection of sounds that he wanted, diction, little instruments, how they needed to be played. So we're doing everything like he's chatting in our ear, going, "Nope, that doesn't sound right. Do it again. Do it again." So we really feel like we're representing him, and we're also very, very conscious that now he's no longer with us. George Michael now is a brand.
Mm.
So we are very conscious of making sure we take care of that brand and it's performed, and anything we do visually fits in with the George Michael brand that the George Michael estate have now established. So that's really important to us too.
Well, so on the tour, how did the idea first come about?
Myself and Joe Garland, the other female singer, we were on a tour with another artist, and we were just chatting. We hadn't seen each other for a while, and we were like, "Oh my god, remember when we did this with George? Remember when we did that?" And we were laughing about it, and then we'd like, "Oh my god, but what about when he did this?" And then we were crying, and so it was a whole like gambit of emotions. And then I said to Joe, "Do you know what? I think George Michael's fans would really enjoy listening to this, listening to those things that they didn't know about George." And I'm not talking about any personal stuff. It's not gossip. This is literally about music, the musicality. I said, I think they'd really, obviously, there are a few funny things that have happened over time. You can't work with someone for that long and not. Um, but then, and I said, yeah, I think the fans would really love it. And she said, you know what? Let's just do it and see what happens. And then we just kind of called all the musicians and they said, yeah, my God, we'd love to play the songs again. And it just really came together like that. But I was reading something today. There was something in the Daily Mirror today about the band, and it said basically the headline was, "It's not about us, it's about him," and that is the heart of our show. And then someone commented underneath, "Oh yeah, but it's also about the money." And I said, "What do you mean?" I don't normally comment, but I went on and I said, "What do you actually mean by that?" Because one, you have to understand, we, the singers, are doing this is our heart project, if you like, but we're asking other people, other musicians and crew and trucks and lighting and sound to come and work with us. We have to pay those people. Whether we get any money or not is a different story. When we did our show in Shepherd's Bush, myself, Joe, and there was another girl doing with us, Lucy and Jay, we got nothing from that show financially. We got a big reward from just singing, but we got nothing. But we have to pay musicians, and that's why ticket prices are ticket prices. We have to have a ticket price that will pay one for the venue, one for the lighting people, one for the sound, one for the crew. We've got 8 members in the band. People won't work for nothing. And I just felt like, I don't normally like to comment because I think you can go down a hole, can't you, when people they say something, you're like, oh no, now I'm down a hole arguing with someone. But I just thought, no, I'm not going to allow this because you're spoiling something that really came from our heart. And I'm not going to allow you to do that. So I'll have to see what he said. I'm probably I'm going to go down a hole with him and have an argument for the next week, trying to explain myself. But
the thing is with social media and stuff, you could do anything and somebody'd be moaning about it. So
you know what? This is the thing. You will never please all of the people all of the time. Whatever you're doing, like you've got your channel, people will either resonate with what you're doing or they won't. The thing that you do is you just carry on doing what you love, what you believe in. And if people flock to you organically, then they're your audience. It doesn't matter what there's always going to be someone like this guy on our Facebook. There's always going to be someone want to dig, say something negative, but they're not creating anything, are they? So
half of the time it's for a reaction as well, isn't it? Or just to
yeah, of course. And I've just given this guy a reaction, which I totally shouldn't have done.
You've given us a little insight into the shows with the music and the stories, but what can people expect when they come to the shows?
Okay, well, expect to cry because some of the stories are very sad. Expect to laugh because there's a few really funny George Michael moments. And just bring your dancing shoes and bring your best voices because you're going to be singing. And it's what it is a complete journey, is what it is. It's a journey through our eyes of working with what I think is one of the most incredible artists that England's ever had.
And yeah, that's a brilliant way of putting it. And just to finish off, have you got any social media or a website for the band and tickets I can put in the link?
Oh, yeah, please do. Yeah. So our website is www.thegeorgemichaelsingers.com. And you could go to our Instagram, which is the George Michael Singers. My Instagram, obviously, is Shirley Happiness, and I've got a link in my bio with all the dates of the shows. But that would be great if you can. Yeah, that'd be lovely.
Yeah, definitely, I will do. And like I said, I really appreciate you giving me the time today.
Of course. No, thank you for asking me. I was just trying. I was trying to do it. We were trying to do it the other day, weren't we?
Yeah.
It was trying to fit it in, and then I've literally had like back-to-back interviews. So not that I'm complaining, but yeah, thank you. Anytime I can do stuff online, if anyone DMs me, and I always try to accommodate it if I can.
Yeah, thank you. I do appreciate it. And
You're
good
welcome.
luck with the tour. I'm sure it'll be brilliant.
Sorry, say that again.
Good luck with the tour. I'm sure it'll be brilliant.
Oh, thank you, darling. Thank you. Thanks. Okay, and I'll look out for this on your page.
Yeah, I'll send you a link or whatever, and I'll let you know when it's on.
All right, tag me, yeah, and I can repost it too.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you. Bye.
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 Bye.